All right, welcome back everybody to The Ox and the Rat. I'm your host, The Ox.
And I'm the Rat.
Oh, that took a while. Well, we don't have a crazy delay, do we?
We might.
We might? Okay, no, I don't think so. All right. Yeah, so welcome to the show and my year. It's the year of the Ox, of course, if you hadn't clued that in yet. Are we on that yet? It's February, right?
Not yet.
Oh.
Yeah. It's in next week or the week after.
So we're still in your year, the year of the rat.
That's true.
You remember
Nothing
that?
good.
Nothing good. Yeah, it was a crap year. Yeah. Well, what was the last year of the rat? What was the one before that? I feel like I need to look that up.
12 years ago.
What happened 12 years ago?
2008, right?
Yeah.
I was just moving to Korea, I think.
Let's see. I got top events that changed the world in 2008. I'm going to test the theory that Obama won the presidency. That was good. Stock market crash. That was brutal.
That was good.
Okay. Well, yeah. Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. Fed innovated to replace a failed banking. Well, debatable. Yeah, that was the housing. That was the housing crisis. The year upon which the great movie The Big Short is based, right? So yeah, it was awful. That was bad. Well, what was the last year of the Ox? Would have been 2013.
2009.
Oh.
2009. The next year, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was probably that was a recovery. So, 2 rat years with decline, 2 ox years with recovery, maybe.
Yeah, I am the recovery, the ox. Yeah, I think that fits with like Chinese holistic medicine or something. Like if you want to curse somebody, you feed them rat parts, and if you want to regain your virility, you feed them powdered bull something.
Bull testes.
Yeah, I definitely triggered some people with that comment. I'm not a racist. Just trying to make a joke. 2009. Let's see here. Yeah. Well, don't itemize it. I want a month by month review. Okay, we're just going to go on the assumption from now on that bull years are better, or ox years are better than rat years. Makes sense to me.
Well, if we go 2008 minus 12, what is that?
What is that? 96? What happened in 1996?
Was there some terrible economic collapse?
We're getting close to the bubble, right? The first thing that came up is Paris and Rome bound TWA Flight 800 explodes off the coast of Long Island. Killing all 230. That's also going to trigger some people. I'm not laughing at the event, just the circumstance of this being a bad thing again. 20 things that happened in 1996. The last thing. All right, hold on. And then the one before that would have been 1997. Pokemon had just been introduced to the world. Oh, that's a great thing. Even I played it. Oh, yep. Fox News Channel just made its debut. Clinton reelected. New York Yankees were the World Series champions. That's a bad one. Not gonna lie. Jordan Bulls' second three-peat run. Blah, blah, blah. Independence Day came out that year. That was a great movie. Yeah, that's what
basically is pretty tame. Didn't start off great with the flight, but it seems like just some sports stuff.
Tickle Me Elmo introduced. DVDs were first launched. That's a bad thing though, because man, DVDs, those things kicking around everywhere. You just want to throw them all out, and then you're like some weird part of you, like people that hang on to VHS tapes. You're like, Well, there could be a time when, like, somehow this.
I'd buy a VHS player.
My parents still have one, and they keep them. They're hoarders. Oprah started her famous book club. Ugh. Okay, that's gonna trigger some people too. Yeah, I don't like Oprah. Okay, I don't like her.
This is the
right.
end of a 10-year run of Gold Trails and Ghost Towns, a British Columbia series on gold mining and boom and bust towns.
That'll be good. I don't think I ever saw a ghost town. Well, I did go to BC. I was there for a short time. I was on the island though for most of it, and went to Whistler, and the Okanagan. But I didn't see any of that stuff really. I went on an old like mining or like an old railroad trail, super long one. That was fun. But no, I didn't see any ghost towns. I think that would be cool though. I did teach that stuff.
I went to Barkerville, which is technically a ghost town, but repopulated by period actors.
Do they live there? They have their own period economy?
I guess so. You go there and you go check out all the old buildings. You get to do a little gold panning. You get some like old-timey candy. It's kind of cool.
It's like old-timey candies, like sugar, literally sugar.
Yeah, it's like those sticks, like, you know, those flavored sticks, like apple and peppermint and all that.
Flavored with arsenine and asbestos. I hear asbestos tastes very sweet, though.
Gold dust.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's get moving. I can't believe we haven't done the one I'm about to go through here. It seems like every time I go through the list, I'm like, this is a good one. I think like there's none left, and then because a lot of them are kind of repetitive, but this one is a little bit different. So, you ready?
Ready.
All right. This one's called The Fox and the Goat. It's that goat again, and that fox. A fox fell into a well, and though it was not very deep, he found that he could not get out again. After he had been in the well a long time, a thirsty goat came by. The goat thought that the fox had gone down to drink, and so he asked if the water was good. "The finest in the whole country," said the crafty fox. "Jump in and try it. There is more than enough for both of us." Crafty fox. The thirsty goat immediately jumped in and began to drink. Dumb goat. The fox just as quickly jumped on the goat's back and leaped from the tip of the goat's horns out of the well. The foolish goat now saw what a plight he had got into, and begged the fox to help him out. But the fox was already on his way to the woods. "If you had as much sense as you have beard, old fellow," he said as he ran, "you would have been more cautious about finding a way to get out again before you jumped in." There's a little animation here. I want to see what happens. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I heard some braying.
Yeah, there's a little animation that accompanies that. Anyways, yeah. So do you want to give this one a go?
Okay, fox falls in, sheep jumps in, fox jumps out,
Goat.
Sheep is stuck, unprepared, goat. So, always have a backup plan for your course of action.
Yeah, pretty close. The key is in that last paragraph sentence. If you had as much sense as you have beard, you would have been more cautious about finding a way to get out again before you jumped in. I'm going to revise it a little bit, refine it.
With age should come wisdom and preparation.
That's a good one. I can see that with the beard thing. Yeah. So it's look before you leap. That's a good one.
Classic.
Although, yeah, I don't know how much I agree. we can get right into it. For me, I definitely have not looked before I've leaped many times. All career based. I don't know what that says about me, but most recently I quit my teaching job without any prospects, and then spent 2 months ish in the wilderness trying to get hired for something. That was not the smartest thing, but also it led me to some desperate action that I might not have taken otherwise, and it's worked out more or less so far. Before then, when I was a teacher, I famously took my first job, the first job I could get, to teach in England without knowing anything about the place. I taught in Grimsby, and I remember my aunt lives there, and I told her I was really excited. I was like, I'm going to go teach in England. She's like, where? I'm like, Grimsby. She's like, oh my God, why? Like, we call it Grimtown, and there were good reasons for that. That was a nightmare. And then I went to China, like on a whim too, because I was like, well, I don't like this offer they've given me. I'm just going to go anywhere else. I remembered a recruiter from China. I randomly looked it up. It was totally true. Randomly looked it up. Cold call, like cold emails, like looking for a job. I got, right away, I got something for like 2 days away, a Skype then interview. And the next thing I knew, I had a job and I was going to China. Oh, and then, yeah, all kinds of wackiness with my job. How about you?
Yeah, I think jobs as well. I finished university, like I said, year of the rat. And then a friend of mine suggested that we go teach abroad or work abroad. So I said, sure, find the spot. Just find one that pays well or something like that, I think I said. And he suggested Korea, and then, we just left. I'd never even eaten Korean food. Didn't really know anything about Korea, South Korea at all. Went there, had a blast as well. And most of my jobs, I've never really had a job after I left my current one. Like, I always had to scramble and find something. I never had a lined up job, except for, those initial ones. But a lot of times after you just want to leave the company that you're working for, or you get let go like I did in my last job, you just got to find something.
Yeah.
It's always worked out.
Yeah, sure has for you. I don't know what else for me. Looking before I leap, relationships for sure. I often don't put any thought into them, with the exception of the current one, where this is pretty serious, and we're doing things, thinking about them, and now we're living together, and that's the one change. So I've become a little bit more thoughtful, and I'm happy, but in the past, not even close. Famously moved in with 2 women who I didn't get along with at all, and I worked with them. Oops, mistake. Also, and never thought twice about it. I was just like, all right, well, I get to save money on rent. You want to move in? Okay, cool. That was it. I always assumed it would work out, and but to be honest, I don't think that. I think there was zero effort on my part, like, to think about it. Something serious like that. It definitely led to some oopsies over the years. So I definitely look before I leap too often, with many consequences, just as the goat did. I guess I'm a bit of a goat here. Anything else from you? What about relationships? Do you have the same penchant as I do?
I don't think so. I think I've always waited, at least for the moving in part, and maybe starting them too. I think maybe I take too long. In the last 2, I probably took a little too long. That's about it, I think. I mean, nothing for relationships, nothing else in life. Maybe university studies, I guess. Like maybe you could say the same, where you just go into something because you're like, all right, this is something that you're supposed to do after high school. Take whatever I'm kind of interested in, but didn't really think about the possibility that there's no jobs in that field.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. You just brought that up. Yeah, I never thought 1 minute about what I was gonna do. Only child, pretty well supported for sure. I was just like, originally, yeah, you've led me down a good path here. I never finished high school originally, and technically never did, because I never did my community service. I just got them written up. But I took a victory lap of high school. Says the guy with 2 master's degrees now. Goes to show you how valuable high school is, for God's sake. But yeah, I never really finished, went back. I was just working in a kitchen, as I'm sure you were as well. Well done that. That was good times. Puttered around for a bit, and then I was like, I got to do something with my life. And then I went into community college, not community college. I don't think we have that here. Well, we do, but like private college, to be a furniture technician. Super good at the knowledge stuff. I'm a creative person as well. But at that point in my life, I was a mess. Like I didn't have anything down. Personally and otherwise, like it just wasn't a career for me. I'm not good at it. I'm accident prone. Less now. I'm a very different person now, but then accident prone. I ended up going like 3 times, I think, in the 2 months I actually went there. 3 months to the infirmary. Once for smashing my finger with a hammer. 2 other times for poking myself with like a razor sharp chisel. Like it was awful, but I was good at everything else. I was passing, and I was like, I eventually said, like, I can't do this. This isn't for me. And then so that was a mistake, obviously. And then off to university. I had to go back to adult high school, of course, to raise my average in a few areas. Did fantastic at that. So I went back to adult high school, got my grades up, and then I went off to study history because that's the only thing I knew that I liked. I was always good at history. I always enjoyed it. And, what was it? 6 years later, I've, 4-year Bachelor with Honors and 2-year Master's Thesis. I've got an MA in military history. Never did anything with it. Never did anything with it. You could argue that the qualities or the skills that you learn from it are valuable, certainly, but there's too many people doing that, I think, to get into sort of an argument take on it. Like, we're all just randomly going through life and just, not thinking about a future, because everybody asks us, but nobody asks us to plan anything. And I ended up in that boat. And then next thing I knew, I was dating an Austrian, and I ended up in Austria for a year, and we were together for 4 years, and then that led me down to teaching. Like, crazy, man. And then I was a teacher, and then that was just what I was until I wasn't. So, yeah. There you go.
Quite the journey.
Still on it.
Yeah. There is not a whole lot of, well, at least when we went to school, I guess, there's not a whole lot of preparation for the future. They teach you stuff and you do your aptitude test if you're lucky, and then you get some random job. You're like, I could be I don't know,
janitor.
Yeah,
they could do a better job of distinguishing, good jobs in some of those categories. I remember it being you're gonna be a loser. like you're either a winner or a loser in those things. It sounded awful.
And it's so the job that gets picked, there's 10. You're like, how the hell do you even become this? What's involved with this? There's no other like back story of information where you're like, oh, you could take this step and this step. You're going to have to study this. Or you do look at some of the courses, you're like, I'm never going to pass like university biology or whatever the hell you need for that.
Yeah. Oh, this is gold. Like, I've railed against public education and university education a lot here. Like, why do you forget everything from high school? Because it doesn't matter. And that's the saddest thing to say as a former teacher, but it's true. I lied to students all the time about how valuable something was. You can talk about skills and shit as much as you want, but let's face it, like, you're not using algebra. Like, it doesn't happen unless you take a very specific career track, and that's why teachers, I do all this study of curriculum, teaching and learning. And like, one of the things that they've noted before is like, all of these ideas and skill-based training stuff works really good, except for math. And it's like, yeah, that's a good starting point to have a serious conversation about like the limitations of how the system works. And I'm just reading this paper. I'm doing program evaluation right now. And I got it in front of me. And here's a great comment. It says, the term training is often assumed to be understood and thus struggle, blah, blah, blah. So they define it as the development and delivery of information that people will use after attending the training. Thus, this distinguishes training from other situations where people are provided with information but are not necessarily expected to use it. That is K-12 education in a freaking nutshell, man. It's like, here's the cell. Let's learn all of the parts of the cell. Why? Because
you're going to do the same thing in university when you go into biology.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I learned cell structure in biology in university. I took it for a year. And like those, I don't remember which, we dissected a starfish, something like that. I remember learning about like the parts of the starfish and things like that. And yeah, basically all it is you learn it and then you add more and then you learn it and then you add more and you learn it and you add more. So by the time you get to university, you're kind of at a level where you kind of understand some basics, but I don't know. It's hard because if you put a student down a track, like say they were good at math or they think they're going to do, I don't know, something engineering, and then that's all they study. And then by the time they finish, they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even like this subject. So that's another potential risk if you do, put people down tracks. They just change course.
Yeah, I guess my argument is not so much the generalist nature of school, but so often how, like, it's not, in terms of looking before you leap, like, it doesn't provide people an understanding of of the usefulness of what they're doing. And thus it leads people down blind alleys. So like history, for example, I'm a historian by trade, as I've said, and I'm pretty sure that social studies is a waste of time. Like I'm pretty sure of it now. Like, what does it add? It basically recounts things after they happen. And then you have all these things like, well, if you know history, so you don't repeat it. It's like, that has never been true. People repeat history all the time, even when they know it. It's not how it works. It's because afterwards you're able to say, oh, well, see, now when we look back on it, this fits that paradigm. It's like, well, at the time, that's not the way it looked, and you might be wrong about that. It's just you're picking and choosing things to fit your theory. It's not a science. I don't see how it adds a lot of value. I mean, unless you like reading stuff.
Yeah,
it's just not applied.
A lot of those things are like a common, just like talking point. Like, Wolf, the Plains of Abraham. And you're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that thing. It's kind of like just knowledge. Everybody can kind of just sort of piece together, and we have some sort of common bond between what we know. Like that's why we read the
Yeah.
exact same books over and over again. Since like of Mice and Men, can't is there a better book that's been written since that came out? I don't know.
Well,
Why do we read the exact same books?
some people would argue that, that's what distinguishes a classic. It has some elemental, uh, indivisible attribute that makes it better than anything that's happened since. And I
But
kind of
is
believe
it?
that. I think I do. I believe that because I've what I just talked about, right? Like we go to university and as teachers, it's like, oh, don't make sure that it's student centered. Like this has been known for like decades and it just goes back and forth. My curriculum history course was just like, now this decade we're going towards the conservative side. Now this decade we're going back towards the liberal. Like the pendulum just swings back and forth. People, it's not that they don't know. It's just that they have other priorities, right? They have political priorities or something. Like it, we've figured pretty much everything out when it comes to before even the science was there. For the way people learn, for example. Social constructivism existed before we had the neuroscience to back it up. But now we have the neuroscience that backs up the thing that people knew for decades, right? And that's why
Mhm.
I think there's a value in that classical approach. It's like people are pretty smart, and the we know what works and what doesn't for the most part for a long time. But I don't think that applying social studies rules, like rules of thumb, works, right? When you say like, oh, we can learn from history. I guess we can learn from history, maybe, but we don't for a reason. And what's that? Is it ignorance? I don't know. I don't think so. I think for the most part, it's just that, it's post facto stuff that historians tend to do, where we go back and we say, see, like now this all fits together. This is exactly like, no, it's not. It's just that if you, if you like trace a line in the sand between one grain of sand and another, it's like, see the connection? It's like, well, what about all the other grains around it? You just did some magic and you just said, oh, see,
Mm.
these work because I say that they work after the fact. I don't know.
I guess for
I think
some
that
things like sorry, some things like poor economy, depression, and social uprising, or like these radical groups, like fascist groups and things like that, coming. That's more like human behavior, but you can see that throughout history, I guess. So those are like some warning things that you could you could learn from. Basically,
I
just
guess so.
make sure your masses are somewhat happy.
Yeah. Is it better to be loved or feared? Machiavelli. Is that changed over time? I don't know. Both seem to work. Machiavelli would prefer fear if he had to choose between them. Better be feared than loved. That was the one. If you can do both, great. Unlikely. Yeah, I don't know. I think that whole conversation will certainly trigger some people who are talking about like, oh, Black Lives Matter and stuff, and the Me Too movement. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's true. But I think what I'm arguing is not that we shouldn't know what happened, but the idea that we can apply rules from social studies is I think a bit of it's a step too far. And I think it's kind of, like I said, post facto like analysis of saying like, now see, according to me, everything fits together, but according to somebody else, everything fits together in a different way. And there are many examples of that. Anyways, I'm a historian, just to clarify again. I'm a trained historian. I loved history. I could see skills that I've derived from it, but the idea of lessons to be learned, I think is I just don't believe in that necessarily.
Yeah. Well, especially for the average person. I mean, maybe if you go into politics or something, foreign relations, I don't know. Um, but one of the reasons probably is to instill nationalism. Like, learn about your country. Look at all the
Yeah,
great stuff
that's
we've
a
done.
huge fur trade, fur trade, fur trade. Oh my god,
Wasn't it great?
I do that in tutoring all the time. Yeah, awful. Yeah, I mean, there's always the hidden curriculum, as they say, right? Not the content, but the reason for including the content in the first place, and who's deciding it. And yeah, that's a real thing. It's not a conspiracy. It's just human nature and politics again. Politics is human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
you can have
a bit of a tangent there.
a little bit, but whatever. The main thing that is probably the best solution, if you have to have like a really good project essentially, but you need a cross curriculum, every subject. You need essentially every subject to fix this. So the whole year, maybe it's broken into 2 parts. They do that in IB with, project based or whatever, but I'm saying throw all subjects together. Two giant projects.
I actually,
for the year.
that was one of my recommendations on a recent paper where I was like, look, like it doesn't work in these silos. It's weird. I did it. This is this won't sound like it's relevant to my degree, but I looked at organizational culture and I compared corporate and educational culture. So kind of adult learning and youth education. And I was like, they're the same thing. They're the same thing for a reason. They're both derived from the same time period, from the early to late industrial revolution, where it was, factory production, knowledge in, knowledge out. And it's still very much that way. I know that it's, reformed a little bit, but corporate world, a lot more so, I'd say, that in many ways than in public education. But whatever you believe about that, one of my recommendations was that we get rid of silos, as they should. They're terrible in organizational culture, right? They lead to specialists, and this idea that like what happens in one domain doesn't apply to another. And that's kind of true, but the idea should be to develop range. And how many times have you heard, I've heard students say, oh, but this is history. It's like, so what? Like, of course, like you just went from English class, now you're in history, and suddenly you don't know how to write. It's so weird, right? But that's what education trains people to think. And it's the same thing in these specialist organizations where it's like, okay, well, I only do this. I only do that. This is outside of my lane. But that's not how things work, right? Invention, creativity happens on the margins. It happens when people are able to see the whole picture and bring things together. And I fully advocate for the dismantling of things like geography and social studies. Like, what's the like geography is history. Like I know that history is, human, has human impact, but geography, there's also human geography in there. And it gets people out of this idea that they have to have specialist skills to function, and that things exist in silos. Again, more importantly than that, companies now are not looking for specialists outside of, say, software development. What people need more of are generalists. My job is to be a generalist. I wear many hats as an instructional designer, for example. And that's coming up a lot. And I think that, you've got to get that idea out of the way, because look before you leap, bringing things back around. How do you like that? Hold on, I'm not done yet. Bringing things back around. That's not how the world works, kids. We gotta look before you get out there. And a job of education should be to give people a real taste for what the world is, not the way it works in a classroom, because that's a lie. I'll give you a great example before finishing here. My tutoring client, it's like, or tutoring clients, they get these history assignments where the job, where it's basically, assignment is a loose term. The last one was, what is the purpose of this document? And all they need to do is write one sentence. And I was like, what did your teacher say? And they're just like, oh, we just need to find the sentence and copy it and paste it. Like, okay, so what have you learned here? Like, well, there's a document that does this. Like, all right, is that useful to you? I ask that question all the time. I was like, no. I was like, so what do you think the purpose was of this assignment? Like, I don't know. Like, we all gotta be part of the rebellion here. Like, that's not how education works. Education should be applied, right? If you're studying history, go and find a controversy in history, I guess, a real one as a student. And I want you to, I want you to deconstruct it. I want you to analyze this thing. We did that, I did that when I was in the IB, right? Deconstruct this, analyze it. I want you to find controversy because people like that. If you're doing geography, you better be out of the classroom because geography doesn't happen in the classroom. But too often that's not the case, right? I just hate it. I think it's really disappointing. And if you're asking me, and you didn't, but if you're asking what is wrong with education, it's that kids don't care because they shouldn't care. Like, that's the saddest thing I could possibly say as a teacher, but it's true. They get it. They know you're lying to them when you say, like, this is a really great skill. You're going to need algebra when you grow up. Like, and then they're like, I have a calculator. Like, yeah, but let me sell you on math. Like, that's not how it works, man. They've got to
have 100,000. I have 100,000 subscribers on my dance platform. I'm making money.
Platform. You have TikTok. A dance platform? Do you?
No. I'm saying the student is saying that.
Well, it's relevant. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And it's relevant to them.
So we should teach video editing.
Oh, God, yeah. Like real skills, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the best project, probably something to do with like engineering, physics, design, something where you have to build or, it involves all those subjects together, writing reports, doing the testing, combines them all.
Yeah. And I would actually be for getting rid of almost all content from the history curriculum.
Yep. Just dive into the research of whatever that giant project is. Find the history of that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Or what do you want to learn about? What do you want to learn about? What would you like to present about? This is a topical class. Go back to the IB again, right? Like, this subject is broad enough that it has appeal to anyone, or should do. It shouldn't be, we're going to learn about the fur trade. Do you know what pemmican is? You know the ingredients? Sure, good, because you're never going to taste it. Because that's what you want to do. You want to taste it.
How about bannock?
You know what it is? Good, because you're never going to taste it or make it. But it's the making, it's the tasting, it's the doing.
Bison meat?
I'd love to have some bison meat. Speaking of bison meat, we're at the end of our show. Yeah. So what do you say about this this moral? Look before you leap.
Look before you leap. I'd say, yeah, when you go into university, plan out your path a little bit more. Look on that one. Jobs, yeah, you could or you couldn't. If you're in a bind, it really motivates you. So I think it depends on the situation. Could be good, could be bad. I'm giving it a sideways thumbs.
sideways. Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think and I've seen value in just going for it, man. I think look before you leap can be a little bit is situational, and it could be a little bit depending on who you are, it could lead to paralysis, right? Sometimes you just got to go for things, and things are right. Trust your gut too. Yeah, maybe I'm totally against this because I have not lived it either. Yeah, I'm going to give it a sideways thumb. Maybe look before you leap at times, or give it a glance, but don't let it prevent you from the adventures that come from just taking a leap into the unknown.
Well said.
Indeed.
If you liked this episode, give us a big thumbs up.
Yeah, please do. And tell us what we're doing wrong, what you want to hear more of. Do you hate us? That's cool. I don't know who you are.
Thumbs down.
I don't know who you are, but all feedback is good feedback. So, anyways, check us out on any of your platforms. Like you said, give us a like or dislike. Leave us a comment, better. And look before you leap, I suppose, or don't.
Until next time.
Adios.
Goodbye.